Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Mental Health Awareness and Wellbeing Festival 2nd edition, presented by the Migrant Writers of Singapore. My name is Naisi Candido from the Philippines, one of the core team members of Migrant Writers of Singapore. It's a great pleasure to be here with you all. I am your host for this segment. Firstly, many thanks to Chuchi Humanistic Youth Center, the Majority Trust, One Bag, One Book, and Singlet Station for supporting this festival. This afternoon, we are honored to have Ms. Jen as guest speaker. Let's give her a big round of applause. Also, we have Janelyn Dupingay for the opening speech and Karisa Poedjirahardjo, the program's manager and a very humble person from Singlet Station. Before we move forward, I will read to you a few reminders for the festival in order to carry on with our program smoothly. Food and drinks are not allowed inside the hall. Guests are free to enter and exit the hall as needed, but please be respectful of others' viewing experiences as you do so. The restroom is outside across the exit and the back of the room. And we also have a book fair outside which you can purchase books by some of our presenters. There are QR codes pasted around the hall for our survey. We would greatly appreciate it if you could share your feedback with us before you leave. Thank you so much. Moving forward, let me call on one of the hardworking core team members of Migrant Writers of Singapore, our very own Janelyn Dupingay for the opening speech.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you so much, Naisi, for that introduction. To our guests of honor, speakers, performers, supporters, fellow volunteers, and friends who are present here today, a pleasant afternoon and a good and warm hello to those who are watching via the live stream from different parts of the world. In 2021, the Migrant Writers of Singapore held the inaugural Mental Health Festival with the theme, Building Back Beyond Better Mental Health. A year after pandemic has brought so much changes in the lives of every individual. We aim to bring hope through the many different programs and to openly talk about the issues that has been considered shameful or taboo for some. And now, we are gathered here again today with the same vision on how we can create and raise awareness about mental health issues being suffered by many individuals, but sometimes disregarded. This festival was made possible through the support of Singlet Station, the Majority Trust, Chuchi Humanistic Youth Center, and One Bag, One Book. Being a volunteer with this community for 3 years now, I've heard many different stories of struggles, pain, sufferings, anxiety, and depressions from my migrant brothers and sisters. I myself have gone through tough periods which I thought I could not overcome. It was 2019 when I lost my beloved father. Although I managed to go back home and catch the last night of his wake, I came back to Singapore and suffered depression. My weight fell from 59 down to 50. My collarbones became visible, and I've lost those chubby cheeks. Although I was functioning, but the extreme sadness were eating me up. the pain was just so inevitable. These struggles went on for a few months until I found Migrant Writers of Singapore through Facebook. I joined their first photo walk in the year 2019, and it is where I discovered that writing can be a friend, an outlet of an unexpressed feelings, and those emotions produce poems that now can be read online and in anthology books. On that day, I've seen how they were trying to create a safe space for everyone and how they're exerting efforts to build an inclusive community for migrants. A small group of people bound by commitment, and I told myself that I want to be one of them. Through constant involvement with this organization, I gained friends whom we created a network of strong support because we share the same feelings of longing for our dear family and homeland. This community became my family away from home, aside from my employer. And with the intense desire of wanting to uplift more of my fellow migrant workers and to equip myself with the right knowledge and skills, I started joining mental health courses and workshops designed to better understand our own emotional needs and the behavior of people around us, to be able to cope with the fast flow of life and uncertainties. All thanks to Migrant Writers of Singapore, Uplifters, Singapore Red Cross, and Singlit Station. I believe that we can be each other's support through becoming more understanding and compassionate. During pandemic, I've seen how powerful the teamwork built between volunteers of the Migrant Writers of Singapore and how resilient we are because we were able to continuously grow and achieve many milestones as a community. We managed to continue our regular activities such as Carnival of Poetry, Open Borders, Blood Donation Drive, and we came up to new initiatives such as Literary Walk, book distribution, poetry competition, and festivals like Slum Poetry Festival, Migrant Arts Festival, Migrant International Festival, and Storytelling Festival. All these were done within the last 2 years throughout the support of our collaborators, sponsors, and you. We remain as an open community where everyone is welcome to join and be involved in our different initiatives. On behalf of the Migrant Writers of Singapore, we hope that may all the programs that you will witness today will leave some key takeaways in your mind, and that when you leave the hall, you will bring with you the desire within your heart to help in spreading the words on the importance of taking care of our well-being. Thank you so much for your presence today and for sharing a piece of your day to sit with us and celebrate this meaningful occasion. With that, I would also like to acknowledge all our community volunteers. And without them, our programs at Migrant Writers of Singapore will not prosper. And I would like to ask them to come up on stage and to share with us this meaningful moment as we unveil to you our newly designed logo as a representation of our continuous endeavor and commitment towards building a strong connection between migrants and locals through literature and arts. We would also like to thank the design team from Singlit Station for coming up to this beautiful logo. Yes, may I request all the volunteers, please?
Thank you so much for that very heartfelt testimony, Ms. Janelyn. Next, we have a very humble person who has been spending so much time together with her team and helping the migrant writers community through creating innovative projects in which we have invited the program's manager from Slate Station, who was birthed by Indonesians, lives among Singaporeans, and was raised by open mics. Let's welcome on stage Karisa Poedjirahardjo.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. As Nacy mentioned, I work at a literary arts charity called Slate Station, and I've had the pleasure of supporting and collaborating with the migrant writers of Singapore on various projects over the past couple years, and I've learned so much from them and their dedicated volunteers and community leaders. So to tell you a little bit about putting together this festival, early on in our conversations about curating, we knew that we wanted to keep encouraging public interest in the mental health of migrant workers so that it doesn't dwindle after the pandemic. At the same time, we also felt quite saturated with the painful stories that took center stage during that time. So the question then became, how do we both celebrate strength, hope, and joy during the times of hardship while also holding space for the grief? How do we empower communities that came together to support each other when others didn't, while also questioning, what protections could have been there to begin with? And so you'll notice that our final lineup of programs are quite wide-ranging in terms of genre and topic because we wanted to provide many entry points into this conversation. You can hear lived experience from storytellers and also take home practical information on mental illness, for example. And while many of us have found an outlet for expression and community through literature and the arts, it's also by no means a replacement for counseling and other forms of aid. So we wanted to ensure that we included perspectives from mental health professionals and humanitarian organizations as well. We really wanted to create a space for reciprocal learning and emphasize that this is a conversation that must be had with both migrant workers and Singaporeans. And so I hope that, coming out of this, when we think of the leaders and the movers of the arts or mental health advocacy or community organizing, migrants are also a part of that list. And so just to keep things short, because I know that we're all excited to kind of get things started, I'd just like to give a special shout out to the generous support of the Majority Trust. They're a philanthropical organization that works with donors and charities to build a thriving and sustainable community. And they've also made access to funding for these programs accessible for us, which in turn makes us be able to provide these programs for free and accessible to you, the audience and community members here today. Thank you also to the Chucha Humanistic Youth Center for sharing this amazing space with us. They've been continually so supportive of all our initiatives and programs. And finally, also thank you to the team behind the scenes, Crew for Good, for the amazing work to get this streamed online to archive and for the public to watch. So with that, thank you everyone for coming, and I hope you enjoy the program.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Karisa. Moving forward, we are honored to have our guest speaker for today, a founder of A Kind Place, a registered clinical psychologist who has experience working with clients in US and Singapore. She received her Master Clinical Community Mental Health from Western Illinois University. No other, Ms. Sid Jen.
Thank you, Nacy. Members, migrant writers of Singapore, Slate Station, speakers, volunteers, and distinguished guests, A very good afternoon to all. I'm honored to be here today with all of you to celebrate the second Mental Health Awareness and Wellness Festival organized by Migrant Writers of Singapore and Slate Station. When I was asked to be guest of honor today, I was really very excited and grateful. Growing up, my parents both work in the field of construction, so I've heard many stories from my mom about how migrant workers are treated, living conditions, some of the struggles they had to go through. And I always wanted to let them know how much respect and admiration I have for them. And the work that Migrant Writers of Singapore and Slate Station does is really amazing. The support and platform they provide for migrant workers to be heard and have community goes a long way. The past 2.5 years have been a trying time for everyone in the world. However, I think even more so for many of you who are not living in your country. You're far away from your family, your friends, and having to navigate unfamiliar grounds while trying to stay both healthy mentally and physically. This is not easy for anyone to go through. Hence, during trying times as such, resilience is vital if we want to move forward and thrive in life. So, what is resilience? Resilience is the ability to stay strong and adapt in the face of life's challenges. Resilience is important because without it, many of us would have given up when COVID-19 hit. COVID-19 was especially hard for our migrant workers living in the dormitory, domestic helpers, or even those working in healthcare. During these trying times, I'm sure you might have experienced fear, stress, uncertainty, worry about your health, maybe your family, friends, or even your finances. And in addition, the closing of the borders around the world meant that many of you were not able to go home and visit your families. Some might even have lost friends, family members, your job, or even the sense of normalcy. When I spoke to Michelle from Migrant Writers of Singapore, it pained me to hear about the living conditions in the dormitories during COVID-19, or how difficult it was for domestic workers who had to live under the same roof as their employers during this time. However, what really stood out to me is that all of you are here today. You managed to pull through the difficult times, and by just being here today, attending this event, it shows resilience, hope, and community. During the pandemic, all of us had found new ways to adapt. Connections of friends and families were kept alive through video calls. We learned new skills, new ways of expressing ourselves, and all of us discovered ways to cope and navigate this pandemic. So, talking about resilience, resilience can be built and sustained in many ways. The first step to building resilience is through self-awareness and living in the present. One way to do so is through the practice of mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness helps us stay in the present, learn how to let go of the past, and reduce worries about the future. Today, we all have the opportunity to experience and learn more about mindfulness and meditation from mental health professional Ms. Chua Pei-Ling, which I'm really looking forward to later in the event. Another way to build resilience is through letting our thoughts and feelings be heard and known. It was recently shared with me that all of you have a Arts With Me community on Facebook, and as I looked through the activities, I was heartened to see that many of you have expressed yourself through creative arts, whether it was poems, songs, videos, and art. Sometimes it might be difficult to directly share what you're going through. However, through creative arts, it provides a great platform for you to express things which otherwise might go unheard. Lastly, I would like to emphasize the importance of community in building resilience. Community can help you get through difficult times. Through Migrant Writers of Singapore or even Arts With Me, many of you have found community. Some of you have learned skills to support and take care of one another through psychological first aid and CPR course organized by Migrant Writers of Singapore and the Red Cross. Through community, you can find support, a sense of connectedness, sense of belonging, learn together, be informed, and exchange ideas to navigate through difficult times. COVID-19 has opened the eyes of the locals to the harsh living conditions for migrant workers and the importance of mental health in the community. My hope is that more will be done to support migrant workers and make sure that everyone feels like they belong here in Singapore and that Singapore can be considered their second home. Being a migrant worker in Singapore is not easy. I encourage all of you to continue to support each other through your community and hopefully find support in the country. It's worth taking pride in the resilience you have demonstrated as a community and continue to excel in these challenging circumstances. When the going gets tough, always remember how you have successfully adapted during this challenging time. And before I end my speech, I'd like to read a poem on resilience. So this poem's not written by me, but it's written by Douglas Mallock, and it's titled Good Timber. The tree that never had to fight for sun and sky and air and light, but stood out in the open plain and always got its share of rain. Never became a forest king, but lived and died a scrubby thing. The man who never had to toil to gain and farm his patch of soil, who never had to win his share of sun and sky and light and air, never became a manly man, but lived and died as he began. Good timber does not grow with ease. The stronger wind, the stronger trees. The further sky, the greater length. The more the storm, the more the strength. By sun and cold, by rain and snow, in trees and men, good timber grow. Where thickest lie the forest grove, we find the patriarchs of both. And they hold the council with the stars, whose broken branches show the scars of many winds and much of strife. This is the common law of life. Thank you all, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the festival.